Hi y'all, this is Larry at Deep South Texas, and today I'm going to make cheddar cheese. June is dairy month here in the US, and this video is part of a collaboration that was started by the Inquisitive Farmwife and the Mennonite Farmhouse. Altogether there'll be 30 YouTubers participating, and each one will produce a video and it will go into a playlist that I will put in the description. So take your time and take a look at that. But here at Deep South Texas, we're going to make cheddar cheese. Let me show you how I do that. So the first step in making cheese is to sanitize your equipment. And I am sanitizing my equipment in these two pots that I'll also use later for making the cheese. And I have all my utensils in here, and they've been boiled and steamed and they're ready to come out. Let's take a look at that. So here's the equipment that I have gotten ready and will be using. A cheese mold. It's about 6.5 inches in diameter and 6.5 inches tall. I have a thermometer, a follower for the cheese mold, several pieces of plastic that I'll be using at various points, mainly when I get to the press, and then measuring cups, measuring spoons, cheesecloth, a strainer, and my two pans that I sanitize this in. I'll be using these as a double boiler. So I'm using these two stock pots as a double boiler. The bottom pot is a 5-gallon stainless steel pot, and the top one is a 4-gallon, and they fit together wonderfully to make a double boiler. So when you're heating your milk to make cheese, you don't want to scorch it, right? It needs to be gently heated up. For milk, I'm using whole milk that I purchased at the grocery store. This has been homogenized and pasteurized. This is not the best milk to use for making cheese, but it's available, and it's available here, and it will be available to you if you have a hard time getting less processed milk or even raw milk. So we're going to start putting the milk into the double boiler. And then we'll move the double boiler to the stove and begin the heating process. So here is the last of our 3 gallons of milk. We will heat this milk, more or less slowly, to 88 degrees Fahrenheit. I think that's like 31 degrees Celsius. Let's get this moved over to the stove. So we have the milk in the double boiler and on the stove, and we're going to heat this slowly to 88 degrees Fahrenheit. We'll stir it occasionally. We'll keep a close eye on the temperature. We don't want to overheat it. If you overheat it too much, that's not good, but even if you overheat it a little, you have to let the temperature drop down before you add the culture. And milk holds its heat a long time, so watch it, stop right at the right temperature. Well, while the milk is heating up, let's get a couple of our other ingredients ready. We have calcium chloride and rennet. So we're going to take 3/4 teaspoon of calcium chloride, and we're going to add that to a 1/4 cup of non-chlorinated water. Mix that up a little bit. And we're also going to take 3/4 teaspoon of rennet. And add that into 1/4 cup of non-chlorinated water. We'll just set these aside. Both of these you can purchase online pretty easy. The kind of rennet you use may vary, and so follow the directions that come with the rennet that you're using. But this stuff came from New England cheese making, and it's 3/4 teaspoon and 1/4 cup of water. Well, our milk has reached the desired temperature of 88 degrees Fahrenheit. I've removed it from the double boiler, and now we're going to add the culture. And I'm using mesophilic cheese culture, direct set, 1 package. Purchased this from New England cheese making. So we're just going to sprinkle this on the top and let it set for 5 minutes for the culture to rehydrate. And then we'll stir it in. We'll see you in 5 minutes. Well, that culture should have rehydrated by now. And now we just mix it in. Get it thoroughly mixed into the milk. And then we'll put the cover back on the pot, and we'll let it set for 45 minutes. During that time, the culture will acidify the milk and get it ready for the next step in the process. Well, the culture has been working for 45 minutes. It's time to add some other ingredients. And these are the ingredients that we mixed up earlier. So calcium chloride. If you're using unpasteurized milk, you won't need this, but the pasteurization process harms some of the milk properties, and the calcium chloride helps to restore some of those and helps the curd set up a little bit better. So get that all mixed in. And then we add the rennet. And the rennet is what actually helps the curd set up. So it'll turn this liquid milk into a semi-solid mass. And we mix this for only a minute because the rennet starts working pretty fast. So we get this mixed up. And then we put the lid back on. And in 45 minutes, we'll check to see if that milk has set up and turned into some semi-solid curds. Well, I've waited 45 minutes and the milk should be set up. Let's check it. I got my cheese knife. Yeah, that looks like that's set up pretty well. So now we're going to cut the curd. And we want to try to cut it into 1/2 inch cubes. So first, we'll cut it vertically. And then we'll cut it horizontally. And finally, we'll cut it diagonally. So the curds have been cut into something like 1/2 inch cubes. Now we want to let the curds heal for a little bit, so we're just going to let that set here for 5 minutes for those curds to heal, and then we will be moving them to the double boiler and starting to cook them. Well, the curds have done a pretty good job of holding their temperature, and now we're just going to slowly and gently begin to stir these curds as we slowly try to increase the temperature to 102 degrees Fahrenheit. And we want to do that over 45 minutes. And while we're slowly stirring the curds, if we find some big curds, and we will, we'll just cut them with the spoon. They cut extremely easy at this point. So again, we're just going to gently stir. The curds are pretty fragile at this point and they will break apart easily. But as we cook them, they will get tougher. They will expel whey, get tougher and get smaller. And then we can stir a little more aggressively. Again, we want to do this cook these curds over 45 minutes to get them to the temperature of 102 degrees. You don't want to do it too fast because then they'll get tough too fast and they won't expel enough whey. Well, we're about halfway through the cooking process now, and you can see the curds have really decreased in size and they've toughened up. You can stir way more aggressively now, and we'll continue stirring, and the temperature gets to 102. If it gets there early, I may move it off the double boiler. If not, we'll just continue to stir. The curds will continue to expel whey and toughen up. So we've been cooking for 45 minutes. We reached our target temperature a little bit early, so I moved the pan out of the double boiler, and I think these are ready. That's what they look like now. Now we're going to stop stirring and let those curds sink to the bottom. So we put the lid on and let this set right here for 30 minutes. Well, the curds have settled down to the bottom of the pan, and now we're going to drain off the whey. I have a strainer here that's been covered with a cheesecloth. We want to catch all the curds as they come out. And I'm catching the whey in a pan. And there's one pan of whey. Now the curds are going to come out with this pour, and It could have come out all at once, so just like that. Now I'm going to spray my hands with some distilled vinegar because I want to start handling these curds a little bit. Get them kind of evened out in the colander. And then we're going to cover them with the cheesecloth. And just let these drain here for 10 minutes. Now, the way you could use this to make ricotta, but this cheddar cheese process is a long, long process, and I'm pretty tired at the end of the day. I don't want to be making ricotta, so I'm going to pour the whey into my compost bin, and it'll eventually find its way into the garden, and will help with that, with the tomatoes and the peppers, so they don't get blossom end rot. Now we will begin the cheddaring process. To gently remove the cheesecloth here. And then we're going to cut this slab of curds in half. And that's what they look like right now. And we're going to put this half on the bottom of the pan. And this other half on top of that half. Then we're going to cover the pan and let those set for 15 minutes. When that's done, we'll take them out. We'll reverse them. We'll put the one that's on top now on the bottom, and the one that's on the bottom on the top, and back in for another 15 minutes. And we'll do that 4 times, and that will complete the cheddaring process. Okay, time to flip those slabs of cheese curd over for the first time. Let's get them out of the pan. There's the top one. And there's the bottom one. Now we got a little bit of whey in the pan that's drained off. I'm going to dump that into the sink. And we'll take our top slab, turn it upside down, and put it on the bottom. And the bottom slab, we'll turn it upside down and put it on the top. And then put the lid back on the pan. I have them in the double boiler to try to keep those curds as warm as possible. There's warm water in the bottom here. It helps if they're warm when they go into the cheese press. They come together a little bit better. Anyway, we'll do that 3 more times, and after that we'll be back for the next step in the process. The cheddaring process is done. It's now time to move on to the next step. Let's get these curds out of the pan. So this is what they look like now after they've been through the cheddaring process. Now we're going to cut these up into 1/2-inch slices. 1/2-inch cubes actually, but we're going to slice them first one way and then the other. That's that way, and then I'm going to flip them around and slice them into cubes. And they end up looking something like that. I'll finish the rest of these and we'll get back. And the curd is all cut up, and now we're going to throw it back in the pan, and then we're going to salt it. So we're going to add 2 tablespoons of cheese salt, 1 tablespoon at a time, and we're just going to sprinkle it over. And then mix it in. Put the other tablespoon in and continue mixing. And finally, our curds are ready for the mold. So I've taken my cheese mold, I've lined it with a cheesecloth, and we're just going to get all our curds into the mold. And the curds are all in the mold. We're just going to press them down a little bit. Going to tighten up the cheesecloth as much as we can. And cover the curds with the flap of this cheesecloth and put the follower on top. And we're ready to put it into the cheese press. Now this is a cantilever cheese press, which means that any weight I hang out on the end here will be multiplied putting weight on the cheese. So it's kind of helpful. You don't have to have huge weights. We're going to start off with this 2-liter bottle of water, and we're going to hang it off the end of the arm. And that puts about 30 pounds of pressure on the cheese, which is quite a lot of weight for the first pressure for a cheese. But this cheddar cheese is a little bit different, so it can take a little bit more weight to begin with. We'll leave this weight on for 30 minutes and then we'll take it off. We'll take the cheese out of the press, we'll flip it over, put it back in the mold, and then we'll put 60 pounds of pressure on. We'll see you when we're ready for that. The cheese has been in the press for 30 minutes with 30 pounds of pressure. It's time to take it out of the press, turn the cheese over, put it back in the press, and put some more weight on it. Now, let's take the cheese out of the mold here. It's not fully formed at this point yet, but should be starting to look like a cheese. And there's what it looks like now. We got a ways to go. Turn it upside down. Get it back wrapped up in the cheesecloth. And back in the mold. We'll try to tighten that cheesecloth up as much as we can here. Fold it over, put the follower back in, try to put the follower back in. I think I got my cheesecloth bunched up a little bit too much someplace. There we go. And now we're going to put more weight on it, and I want to put another thicker follower on top because that follower that comes with the mold is a little thin. And I have emptied the whey out of this pan. So now it's going back into the press. And to adjust the height just a little bit. Make sure that that is in the middle of the follower there. And then we're going to put on 1 gallon of water for weight. And that will be about 60 pounds of pressure. and then we'll leave it like that for 1 hour. And after that 1 hour, we'll take it out and flip it again and put on more weight. Well, the cheese has been in the press for an hour with 60 pounds of weight. Let's take it out, flip it, and put on some more weight. Well, it should be formed up a little bit better now. Let's take a look. Still has a ways to go, but it's definitely looking better. Okay, let's keep going. Back in the mold. For the final press. Now we're going to press this overnight with 120 pounds of weight. Just fold the cheesecloth over the top. Put the follower on. Straighten out any wrinkles that we can. Put my heavy-duty one on there and get it back in the press. So it's back in the press with 120 pounds of weight on, and we're going to leave it in the press at that weight overnight. We'll take it out in the morning, and I think we're going to have a nice looking cheese. We'll see you then. The cheddar cheese has been in the press overnight. It's now the next morning, and it's time to, it should be fully formed, so it's time to take a look at it and see what we ended up with. Again, this video is part of a collaboration with the Inquisitive Farmwife and the Mennonite Farmhouse. Those two YouTube channels will be hosting a live stream on July 5th at 5 p.m. Central Time, and they'll be giving away various items that have been donated during the course of this collaboration. Now, there have been 30 channels involved in this collaboration. Each channel will post a video one day of the week in June, so 30 days of videos, and I will post that list of channels in the description below. But now, let's take a look at our cheese. Now, it's been in the press a long time at a high pressure, so we want to carefully remove the cheesecloth so we don't pull any little bits of cheese off with it. And there it is. Let's get it closer to the camera for a better view. It looks like it's come together perfectly, and it's going to be a fine cheese. Now we're going to air dry this cheese for 2 or 3 days. Let's get that started now. So we're going to air dry the cheese here. I just have a plastic cutting board I've sprayed down with vinegar and a little mat to set it on. And we're going to set our cheese on that. And put this little, I think it's used for pies. You put this over it to keep sort of flying insects away from your pies. And I think it's going to work really good for air drying this cheese as well. So we'll air dry it for 2 or 3 days. We'll flip it over twice a day. And if we have any moisture buildup, we'll take a paper towel and just clean it off a little bit. After 3 days, then we'll put it in a ripening box, and I'll show you that when we get to that, and put it in the cheese fridge for up to 2 weeks, but we'll talk about that later. Well, the cheddar cheese has been drying for 3 days, and it looks pretty nice. Feels pretty dry. This is a white cheddar. No coloring has gone in. Sometimes known as in the US as a Vermont cheddar. So now it's time to go into the cheese cave. So I'm going to put it in this ripening box that also has a mat in it. And this will go in the cheese cave at about 54 degrees Fahrenheit. It's between 11 and 12 degrees Celsius. And I will turn it every day, and also if any moisture accumulates, I'll dry that out. By the way, this cheese weighed 2 pounds 14 ounces after 3 days of drying. So we'll put it in the cheese cave. We'll leave it cracked just a little bit. It won't be completely closed. And like I say, we'll check it every day. We'll flip it every day. We'll dry out the inside of the ripening box if needed. Let's take a look at that cheese cave. So here is the cheese cave. It's just an old dorm refrigerator that I have set up with an external temperature controller, an STC 1000. So we'll keep that temperature right at 54 degrees. Pretty simple. And there is our cheese in the ripening box in the cheese cave. The cheese is in the cheese cave, and as I said, I'll be turning it every day and wiping out any dampness that might be in the ripening box. That'll go on for about 2 weeks. If I see any mold during that time, I'll wipe it off with vinegar and salt if it's really a tough one. But that happens for about 2 weeks. After that, you know, it gets to be a lot more trouble. And then I will just clean it up and vacuum bag it. And it will stay in the cheese fridge for 6 months. And then we're going to take it out and try it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it that thumbs up, and please remember to check out the other videos in the collaboration I'll leave a link to that playlist in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time.